Welcome to Graze, also known as Girls' Night. I hope that you have had a good experience so far with the start of the evening. I hope that you have gotten to eat some delicious food, or if you haven't, hopefully you've been getting the benefits of all the good smells. Our topic tonight is on expectations. So I have a question for you. Do you ever feel like your expectations and the reality that you are given don't exactly match up? They're not quite in sync, maybe? Yeah, all of us, right? Where do we put these expectations? Sometimes in relationships. Anyone else? Um, Significant others, my poor husband, good friends, coworkers, parents, children. We sometimes put our expectations on jobs and careers and goals. If I have this certain job, then I will be happy. If I meet this certain income level, life will be everything that I want it to be. We put our expectations in events or specific seasons. Um, we are currently in the season of Valentine's Day. I have a feeling that you might be a little familiar with the expectations that are not always met according to Valentine's Day standards and the things that the culture puts out to us as what we should be expecting, I guess. A big one for me is myself. Do you ever put unrealistic expectations on yourself? I find a lot of times I have expectations of myself that are up here, and the reality is that I end up coming in here, or further down yet. The truth is, there's only one place that we can put our expectations, and you guessed it, it's in God. And the best thing is that we can not only put our expectations on God, but we can know what to expect. You see, God gave us this little book of promises called the Bible. I hope you have heard of it. And the deal with the Bible is that there's no if you do this or if you are good enough, these are the promises that are for you. It doesn't work that way at all. You see, it actually just works like this. We have to do one thing: declare that Jesus is our Lord, the King of our hearts. And then this whole Bible, full of promises, is for us. We don't need to be good all the time. God knows we're not going to. I mean, hopefully we're trying. But He made us. He knows we're imperfect and we're going to mess it up. But He wants us to have these promises, not because of the way we perform or because we earn them, but just because He loves us and we're His children. So He gives us this book of promises and says, "You are my child. I love you, and this is what I promise to you." So tonight, as we learn a little bit about expectations, I'm going to touch on just a couple of God's promises to us to get your conversation started for the evening. And I'm just going to throw out there right now, if you are a note taker, or if you feel like you'll do better if you jot down a couple things and can take them home and look back at them later and think more about them, feel free to get a pen and paper out or grab your phone and use your notes app. I hope the hostesses will agree that we are not breaking any major dinner etiquette rules by using our phones at the dinner table. Although we might tell our children and teenagers differently, I think we'll make an exception tonight. So the first promise that I want to touch on tonight is that God is always with us. In Isaiah 43, verse 2, says, "I will be with you when you pass through the waters, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. You will not be scorched when you walk through the fire, and the flame will not burn you." And another one of my favorite verses regarding this is from Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11. And it says, "He protects his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them in the fold of his garment." That is so comforting to me to just know that He will carry me when I can't walk on my own. We can expect that God will show up for us. Unlike other people or other things or careers or goals that we have in our lives, unlike ourselves, we can expect that He will show up, that He won't let us down, He will be present, He will guide us when we need to make decisions, and when we are in the thick of it and we just can't even walk anymore, when we feel like we can't stand, He will carry us. And that is just the best news. This promise gives me so much comfort. And as a lighter example to this, while I was prepping for this video, I've just been in a really busy season preaching to the choir, right? We're women and we tend to overcomplicate our lives by putting too much in it. But there's been a lot of really great things that have happened in this past season, and there's also been a lot of really, really hard things in this past season. And the last couple of weeks, as I sat down and in the morning with my coffee and my Bible, and I would ask God, okay, what do you want me to share in this video? I kind of felt like there was a game of ping pong going on in my brain, because between all the messages I felt like I was getting from Him and then all the other distractions in my life, it's just my head was spinning sometimes, and I'd write down post-it notes of verses and thoughts that came to me. And so when I sat down to make this video and I spread all the post-its out and tried to make sense of everything and put it together cohesively, it was a little overwhelming, to say the least. I probably had 20 to 25 post-its spread all throughout my desk, and I just looked at them all and I thought, oh God, please, please help me figure this out, because not only am I going to overwhelm everybody and confuse them and not be helpful in any way, but I'm also going to keep them for 4 hours making this video with all these different thoughts that I have. So thank God, literally, for your sake, that He did help me clarify it all and break it down a little bit. But he showed up for me. And again, that's a lighter example, but at the time, it felt like a pretty big deal. I needed the guidance for sure. Another promise, this would be number 2 for you note takers, is that God hears us. We can expect Him to be listening. Now, I do have to add that this goes without saying that He doesn't always respond in the way we might think He will, but He hears us and He cares about what we're asking Him for. A verse that goes along with this is from 1 John chapter 5, verse 14. It says, "We are confident that He hears us whenever we ask for anything that pleases Him." I have kind of a hard example of this that's happened recently. Good, but different than I had expected, I guess you could say. For years and years, I've been praying for a handful of family members to draw closer to Jesus. And growing up in our very conservative church, the message that I got was, you are not good enough. You are never going to measure up. And hopefully that wasn't what they were intentionally telling me, but that's what I took away from it. And I know that some of my family members had similar experiences to that. And I've just been praying that they would get to know the God that I know now, the true loving God who cares about us and wants what's best for us and is there for us. And all this time that I've been praying, without realizing it, I had expectations that I didn't really know were there until very recently, when He answered my prayers. I thought it would look a certain way when Jesus started to bring them closer to Him. And it didn't look at all the way that I thought it would. It looked like cancer. It looked like loss from that cancer. It looked like divorce. It looked like health issues that we still don't really have all the answers to. All of these happening just in my one extended family, and all kind of at the same time. This is not what I thought it would look like, and this is, quite frankly, what nobody asks for. But He's answering my prayers, and despite all the yuck that we've gone through, and as weird as it sounds, I'm really grateful. He was listening, and He knows, and in the end, people coming to Him, no matter how hard it is and what we have to endure to get there, people joining His family, that's a win. And so I can attest to the fact that He is listening, and He will answer our prayers if they are within His will. And He has our best in mind, even though it looks so different sometimes than how we would have done it. I know His way is better than mine anyway. So I'm going to just keep on being grateful for that. The last promise I want to touch on is that God loves you. We all know this, right? We all hear this, and in our head we all know it, but sometimes we still forget it in the day-to-day. Romans chapter 5:8 says, "But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." While we were still sinning, Christ died for us. So if you're sitting here tonight and you are carrying around this bag of mistakes, regrets, sins, I want you to know that nothing is too big for God. You don't need to be afraid that your burdens are too big and that he can't handle them. He loves us. You can expect him to love you in your shiny moments. You can expect him to love you in your lowest moments when you're making mistakes that you know you shouldn't be making, choices you shouldn't be making. You can expect him to love you in every moment in between. So if you feel like you've crossed the line too far, I'm here to tell you that you haven't. The truth is that you can expect God to love you all the time. He's God. No mistake's too big for him. He can handle it. And if you are afraid to confess it to him and to ask for forgiveness, I just have to tell you that he already knows. He knew long before you ever considered this decision that you were going to make it. He knew you were going to sin. He knew I was going to sin. And you know what he thought about us? He thought we were so great and so worth it that he made us anyways. So I just want to give you one last reminder that you are his child. He loves you regardless of your decisions. And should we keep trying to do better? Of course we should. But he loves us, he forgives us, and his love isn't going anywhere. You can always expect him to love you. So one last verse I want to leave you with before we wrap this up for the night is Lamentations chapter 3, verse 24. And it says, "I say to myself, the Lord is my portion. Therefore I will hope in him." I hope that we can start shifting more of our hope away from other people and other things and shift it to him and put our expectations in him, because he will deliver unlike anyone else can. I hope you all have a great conversation tonight, and I hope you leave feeling filled up and fueled and confident in God's promises and ready to just start putting all of your hope in him and not anywhere else. Good night.